Thanks for watching AquariumTech today. Today I was going to do a little video on some general water conditioning knowledge. Of course, I get questions on this one all the time too. And basically I'm just going to go over some of the general things about, preparing your water for your fish tank, not just, water conditioning. So, anyways, basically, as probably most of you know, some of you that don't, I'll go ahead and reiterate this. You can't just put regular tap water into your tanks, alright? Pretty much no matter what fish you have, even if it's a beta, there's stuff like chlorine, chloramines, chloramines, and there's other like heavy metals. I'm not going to go over them all. There's like other heavy metals though, and dissolved solids that are not good for fish, alright? Now I'm sure, some, depending on where you get your water from, some of your fish might be able to survive for a certain amount of time or something or other, but it's common knowledge basically. Don't do it. Also, another thing to note, because I might forget to put this later in the video, if you're using regular water conditioner or whatever it is you do not add unprepared water directly to the tank. So RODI is different. RODI you can add directly to your tank, but that's kind of a different story. Actually, I'll go ahead and get into that now. Basically, RODI is I guess you just in layman's terms, super filtrated water. And usually most people probably get it at their fish shop, maybe pay like 5 cents a gallon or something like that, 25 cents a gallon, whatever they charge. And usually most people use that for salt water. Fresh water you can get away with most tap waters and just using something like that. It works just fine. But even for my saltwater tanks, I would use RODI water. And you can actually buy little RODI water kits for your house. I mean, they range anywhere from, I think I've seen them as low as $75, depending, I usually get the hookups, so I'll leave it at that. But, it can range anywhere from there to probably thousands of dollars, I'm not sure. But, most of the ones you'll find on saltwater websites probably, I'm guessing probably like 500 to 1,000 at tops. But, so you can get little small ones, to work. You probably have to change the filters and clean it more often, but it'll get the job done. The filters and stuff are pretty expensive for that. I think there's different materials out there that you can use. I mean, there's kind of like a standard out there, but that'll vary. How much it'll cost to run your own and whatnot. So. And RODI water is good for fresh water. There's nothing wrong with using it for fresh water. In fact, it's probably better. But like I said, even with my salt water, even though I had a RODI water for salt water, I'd still add just a little bit of that just because I can. A little bit. So, anyway, so RODI water is pretty much the only thing you really don't need to worry about. Or like distilled water if you're doing like a beta tank or something like that. You really don't need to worry about water conditioner. But water conditioner, we'll get into that now, is usually the cheapest way to go for most things. And you can use it for salt water, but it's usually not the best route because the sensitivity in there and the dissolved solids and whatnot. But anyways, here I got my probably the best water conditioners out on the market. Just in comparison, for instance, like Aquariums, I guess you would say that's like the standard for like normal people that would like go to big pet stores and whatnot. That stuff, if I remember correctly, that Aquarium stuff, the cap is like twice as big as this one. I literally, it might actually be 3 times as big as this one or something like that. I wish I had one, but I don't, because I don't buy crappy stuff. But, Aquarium and stuff like it, use a huge cap, and it only gets probably about 5 to 10 gallons. This, on the other hand, this little cap here does 50 gallons, alright? 50 gallons, that's pretty fucking good. Plus, Prime is probably, I'd say, the most comprehensive, you know, actually like performance-wise out there. Probably gets rid of the most heavy metals, chloramines. It's the only one that I've noticed advertised as chloramines, so I'm sure that's good. So, and also this neutral regulator stuff, most people use it for pH. But most people don't know you can actually use this for a water conditioner too. I actually use this in conjunction with Prime because I have that sump there, so it just gets mixed in. I don't actually use it for, it's really for the pH because it's going into tap water. I mostly just use it as a, you know, just kind of a, you know, just something to help. Because I think this, this might be able to get a couple other heavy metals out. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying I think it might target some different groups better. So, but anyway, so those are my choices with water conditioners. There might be some other decent choices out there, but you know, these are the ones I would definitely tell you to use any day of the week. And they're the best ones I have found so far. So, anyways, basic rules with water conditioner. You know, you need to at least let it sit for a few hours depending on the size of the water you are conditioning. Like, let's say you have a 1 gallon bucket and you're doing it for a small tank. It might only have to sit like an hour or two, or more like an hour. You know, if you're doing like a 10 gallon bucket or even more, you might want to let it sit for maybe 5 hours, maybe even more. You know, the more the better. It doesn't hurt. You know, just one. You know, once you get over like 24 hours, you might want to put some kind of current making device or power head or something, because you know your water can get stagnant depending where you live, and you can get bad. Especially I live here in Florida, and that's a huge problem. Got, you know, humidity, heat all the time. So that's why in my sump I have some good, UV sterilizers and quite a bit of flow going through that sump out there. Because that's the last thing you want is a big bucket full of stagnant water. So, anyways, so that's pretty much like the basic rules there, and just some basic information for water conditioning and stuff. So, I'd say RODI is probably the best way to go. Probably in almost any case. One thing to mention though is that RODI isn't going to have like those trace elements and stuff. Like there is actually a good side to using tap water for plants. It actually has some trace elements that are going to be left in there that some of the plants will like in the water, depending on, you know, your tap water is going to vary from place to place, but you know, there is going to be some trace elements in there that your plants can pick up on with normal tap water for fresh water. But anyways, usually RODI is probably the best way to go almost any situation, I'd honestly have to say. But it's going to be one of the more expensive ones. Cheapest way to go is tap water and water conditioning. So anyways, actually, one of the more expensive routes might be is when you buy like that bottled water, like distilled or whatever. You know, I've seen people buy it. Like I know Petco has like pre-mixed water that they sell. Anyways, so really, it's up to you what you want to use. Like I said, I'll go over what I personally use. I just use tap water and this stuff for fresh water. Salt water, I would use RODI water and maybe just a hint of this. You don't want to use this for the saltwater stuff, you know, but just a hint of that, even though it's RODI water. And by the way, if you guys are big saltwater guys and you plan on having it, I would probably suggest maybe even get my own RODI water kit. Like I said, there's probably a decent one out there you can get for, you know, at least $200, maybe even $100, $150, you know, a decent one. So, definitely would suggest something like that for you saltwater guys. So, anyways, that's pretty much. That's about it for just a general water conditioning. Basically, I should rather say water preparation video. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for tuning in.